Welcome to another episode of Horror of the Worlds, where we talk about the horror movies and how they've been influenced and how they influence everything around us.
Everything.
I'm Curtis Gerhart,
I'm Stephen Miller.
and today, I don't know, it's something that could be kind of considered almost eco-horror.
Kind of.
It's under the whole umbrella of eco, big bug horror
Big
movies.
bugs, yeah.
Which there are other bug movies too, a bug subgenre. This is just another one that branches off.
Yeah, it feels like when they were pumping out movies at the time, they put out a lot of big bug movies in the 50s and 60s. And shit.
The 50s was a huge boom of it. Came out again like in the 90s and early 2000s when they actually had another quite a big boom, and somewhat recently as well. Like one of our last movies we talked about was Infested on our last episode, or on our actual Nature Run Amok episode, and that was kind of a giant bug movie.
By
too.
the end of the movie, it ended up being a giant bug movie. Had to put out some kind of mutant freak shit to make it super scary.
Yeah, because spiders aren't scary to begin with.
Yeah, well,
Whatever.
Kind of cute.
But all right, so let's go and start off. Our first movie is called Them from 1955.
Yeah.
Which is directed by, Gordon Douglas. One thing I kind of want to start off with, to begin with, is like a time frame. So this movie came out in 55. You got to think around the 50s. Like we came out of World War II back in the 40s, if I'm not mistaken, 45, 46, I think.
Yeah.
Like in the 50s, like we were a scared and proud country.
Yeah,
like America was.
Shoot now, ask questions later.
Pretty much. Like that was, I say scared in the fact that we just got out of the Korean War that just ended, or like coming out of it like between 50 and 53. America, so proud and just always on to the next, we're the best country, the whole keeping America great type of thing. Oh yeah, that kind of almost pains me to say that, to be honest. But
we're buffering out a lot of the fucking hard parts.
Oh yeah.
Just starting.
Like that, but like even Hollywood kind of glamorized a lot of it. Like there was war movies coming out. There was a change in even horror movies from like the 40s to the 50s. 40s had a lot more almost European monsters, like actual like more of a humanoid monsters. If you want to call like Frankenstein or Dracula or those kind of humanoid things. You also had some aliens starting to come around into it, and there was a big boom in the 50s when it came to sci-fi horror.
Yeah, like, lots of sci-fi horror. Mad scientists, big monsters, all kinds of fun shit. Yeah.
I mean, you got to think, was it 47? You had the Roswell, I believe, happened. So, I mean, that started a whole alien conspiracy. But you had like War of the Worlds that came out in 1953, 2 years before them. You even had The Thing, like the original The Thing, came out in 51. Forbidden Planet, The Day the Earth Stood Still, The Blob, all this came out in the 50s. So you had a great, era, like a great decade in the 50s when it came to sci-fi horror.
Yeah, there were even some of the guys that were in them were also in The Blob, or at least one of the guys.
And so we're going to start kind of hopping onto them a little bit. One thing that kind of made me not want to watch this to begin with was every time I saw the movie title, it had the exclamation mark, and I thought it was just like a kind of crappy, shitty movie. Like something like Attack of the Killer Tomatoes type. I thought it was just going to be kind of like a funny, just fucking
Critters
dumb
kind of movie, just one of those.
Just more slapstick than anything else. So them, like the synopsis for them is, while investigating a series of mysterious deaths, Sergeant Ben Peterson, played by James Whitmore, finds a young girl, Sandy Desser, who is unable to speak. As Peterson joins forces with the FBI agent Robert Graham, played James Arness, and scientist Dr. Harold Medford, played by Edmund Gwynn. He discovers that all the incidents are due to giant ants that have been mutated by atomic radiation. Peterson and Graham, with the aid of the military, attempt to find the queen ants and destroy the nest before the danger spreads.
Yeah.
That's a mouthful of a synopsis, and unfortunately that synopsis ruins the movie, because I almost want to say, I almost kind of hate spoiling these old movies and new movies.
Yeah, they're so old, people just don't see them.
It's black and white.
Yeah.
We don't care.
Yeah.
You know, like.
But this movie was supposed to be shot in color.
It's supposed to be shot in color and also shot in 3D. But because of budget and everything else, you can still see some of the, I don't want to say 3D effects, but some of the shots that were supposed to be in 3D still there. A lot with the flamethrowers.
Yeah, and so they budget cut the whole film because they didn't think it was going to be worth a damn. Mm-hmm. They just cash grabs at all these horror films and shit. But it ended up being what was an equivalent of $2.2 million in the box office in 1954. Yeah. That's fucking huge. It was the #1 date night movie to go to the drive-ins with.
I think it just lost to the Oscars from was it 20,000 Liters?
Yeah.
Or I can't remember the name of the movie.
Yeah.
But yeah, they pretty much came in second place. So you have a sci-fi horror film that freaking close to getting to the Oscars, because a lot of like the speculation. I mean, yes, being horror, but the speculation was these ants were like robots. Like they were mechanical.
Yeah, big puppet. They almost move like puppets to me. So, I mean, they put a lot of work into this. I mean, especially for back then, they handmade all of these, and it definitely is what made me connect with it a little bit more, because once again, with the build of a set.
Something actually being real.
Yeah, and then them lighting shit on fire. It definitely made it feel like action. It had a high budget for action.
It's another one of those things, too, when things are actually real. People, like, actors actually act.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, and this has plenty of famous actors, even if you're not familiar with the times. One of those guys from this role ended up getting a part in Disney's Davy Crockett, and you see Leonard Nimoy for a blip of a second. But
which is a side portrait of him.
Yeah.
Profile, but he is a young Nimoy.
A very unrecognizable. It was like 20 years later he was in Star Trek. So I mean,
it's something like
it was a huge amount of time in between then and there, but I wouldn't recognize him without his pointy ears.
Honestly,
because that is literally all you see is like right here.
When I kind of read that he was in the movie, I was like, all right, and I was like, I don't see anyone with pointy ears.
yeah, right.
Had to rewatch a movie a couple times.
Yeah.
Right, the whole like the arch, Cholita type eyebrows. Yeah, that's the thing. I kind of hate that synopsis because it ruins that it's ants. Like if you actually go into it, this is a great movie just to kind of throw on that someone hasn't seen, and don't let them know anything about it. Just like, hey, let's just watch this movie.
Yeah, it was definitely a lot of fun.
It doesn't like you won't reveal that it's ants.
Yeah, it's like 20 minutes in. Mm-hmm. It took a while for you to figure it out.
Yeah, I mean, you have they go to these crime scenes. Like one is a building, one is a RV, or I guess a trailer RV. And the cops were talking about the walls aren't broken in; they're broken out. Like something came out of it.
Yeah.
Which there's also a lot of great ant facts that come across it and stuff. One thing that I thought was kind of interesting about this movie was how actually true to actual real life facts it was, because they found out that these ants were mutated from radiation, and they were like, oh yeah, we were testing in this in New Mexico or out in the desert 9 years ago, and yes, we were actually testing our atomic bombs out in that desert, like 1944 or 45. So I mean that actually really lines up of that whole thing. That's why some of they were making Hollywood was making America scared again, because like, wait, we have nuclear weapons.
We were just
Russia
doing that
or the
shit.
Soviet Union has.
When you could go to Vegas and watch them doing it or something like that off in the distance.
I could only
if
imagine.
If you're close
what that
enough
was like.
to see a mushroom cloud, you're too close.
Yeah, that's exactly it. But I don't know. To me, I thought that was kind of like really awesome.
Oh yeah.
Like again, coming out around this time frame, you have even like Russia, like the whole space.
The
space race and all that stuff. When they launched Sputnik, back in 2020. No, I'm kidding. That's an awesome actually alien movie. Like that's a great sci-fi horror. Which I wanted to say is it actually came out of Russia, and Russia has very few horror movies. So if you actually, I think it's on Hulu right now.
Yeah.
highly recommend watching Sputnik. But no, they launched Sputnik out in 57 and stuff. So you have so much real life horror, you know. I mean, it's just everything's going on. Another one of these kind of awesome things is during all this time frame with all these big bug movies, because there was a slew. I think there was like 5 or 6 big bug movies that came out in the 50s.
Giant praying mantis.
There was the Scorpion. There was.
There's a Scorpion
movie,
which came out just after, like, I want to say it was later.
It was
in
like
the 50s.
The 3rd or 4th like big bug movie, and that one was actually kind of awesome because it has a very, to me, a very recognizable scorpion face. Like, it does not look like an actual fucking scorpion at the beginning.
No.
But very comical, and it's just like that. To me, that's a patch. I almost want to get that as a tattoo. Completely fucking random and off topic. So like a lot of these movies, they had the bugs became big because of radiation, which was a very real thing going on around this time frame. Another one of the reasons why some of these insects got big, not for them, is they lay dormant. You know, almost kind of think of like Godzilla, because Godzilla came out in 54, so that was another.
So finding their hiding spot was a little tricky and scary.
Like
and then having to explore that spot was like spelunking.
And then all of a sudden everything comes out.
Yeah.
You know, because a volcano erupts or earthquake happens, and then all of a sudden giant creatures come out of nowhere, and some of them just appear. Yeah. You know, like there's no reason behind it. It's just like, oh, there's big bugs, you know, or sometimes they come from outer space even. But yeah, as a whole, I love the special effects for this movie.
I want to know what it would have been able to look like if they got that full funding, because I remember reading something about how they originally wanted these ants to attack was with like the pincers in the back, and they would poison you. But the way that it would have required them to make this thing move was a lot more money. You saw that same exact attack happen later in the Scorpion film. So that movie, obviously, they try to correct the mistake that they did with them. They're like, well, all right, well, maybe we should make sure these guys get that cash.
They started doing a lot more stop motion, all that stuff, too.
Yeah. In my opinion, makes the movie a lot more creepy.
Stop motion?
Yeah, that part in Beetlejuice where he turns into the snake and he's all moving through the house. It kind of had especially when he started smiling. Yeah, it was like, ugh. I don't know why. James and the Giant Peach had that same vibe to me throughout the whole thing. But
I'm kind of
stop
curious.
motion, claymation, animation. It's all creepy to me a little bit.
Like in real life, you know. So we already have these monsters, and we know what reality looks like. I wonder what my reaction would be to actually see that Beetlejuice, or not so much the Beetlejuice itself, but that amalgamation of that weird claymation just kind of come out of nowhere and be living.
Yeah. Oh god, that'd be fucking creepy to me, man. I know, sandworm in your living room or some shit.
It doesn't have to be a sandworm. It could be like the Slender Man or like just some weird creature just being a weird stop motion. That weird kind of not pixelated, but the shell shaded.
Oh yeah.
That would be. Sorry, random thought. Oh. My brain. But that's also one of the great things. Like this, I love the effects in this movie because they used actual fire, but the mechanical ants, they looked kind of awesome.
Yeah,
they moved really awesome as well. So they actually had a personality because you actually have one of them like where the ants gets kind of surprised and drops a rib cage.
Yeah, it just rolls down the hill.
Like, oh fuck, you caught me. That, and I love the military too, because this was also like a big propaganda film for the military.
Oh god, yeah. It's like, so we can't blow it up, right? Like, what if we use napalm? They were like throwing all the guns at it.
Because this all happened in L.A., Los Angeles, and they went to like the L.A. River, because yes, L.A. has a river, not much of one. But when they were actually trying to they wanted to gas out the ants from the tunnels and all that stuff. I was like, we can't use gas because there's civilians living here.
Yeah, there's kids in particular. Let's not hurt the kids. But the first idea was napalm it. We don't know if these kids are alive. Yeah, no, let's napalm it.
Actually kind of cared. Like, I want to say they were actually pretty smart characters in this movie.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
For a 50s movie that's a horror movie that what is called Them.
Yeah.
A lot of great actors, except for one of the kids when they find. One of the kids is crying. The other kid's like,
Yeah,
I'm
no,
done
I
with this
swear
thing.
to God, I wanted to look up that fact. I'm like, how did they get the kid to cry like that? Is the kid that good of an actor? Did that kid just get yelled at?
I
You
think
know what
I
I
think
mean?
the kid it
So
could have
mom
been
and
that.
dad's in the corner like, you will get grounded with no fucking snacks for the rest of the week.
But
If
then
you
you
don't
have
cry right now.
The other kid's just like standing there.
He's twiddling his thumbs. Yeah.
Like, all right, yeah, answer here. Oh,
Yeah, we're cool.
Can I go home now? But I love the dedication for the military when they're doing like was it over the radio?
Oh yeah.
Credit the radio humor too. All right. There's actually some comical points in this. The whole over. Like, you gotta say over. I was like, I already said over.
Like, I'm over this, and he throws the fucking headset.
But is like when the ants are attacking on the Navy ship and stuff. The guy's still on the radio, all calm and cool. Like, I shouldn't
Yeah,
say calm.
he's
He was
sitting there
frantic.
like just doing his Morse code while
Wow,
he's
there's
getting
an
attacked
ant.
from behind.
Yeah,
like,
freaking-
I gotta get this last one out.
That's American Army right
Yeah,
there.
right.
You know, strong. No, like, enemies right behind us. We're still calm, cool, and we will fucking persevere. Like,
Yeah.
that's what that movie was.
Yeah, they
about.
used it as a recruiting tool. All that shit. I thought that was fucking wild.
like this is a great film, and I hate that it took so long for me to watch this movie.
Oh yeah.
I honestly do. Like,
Yeah, no, this is what got me to watch it. I wouldn't have watched it otherwise. I mean, so there's this song I listen to, Monster Mutant Boogie. It's a rockabilly song, and they actually used a snippet where he's like, "Shoot the other antenna. He can't see without it." I mean,
that, and they
I
actually
didn't
play.
realize how much of these movies were in that. Like Crimson Ghost. That's clearly an old fucking film.
That's yes. That's the whole like Misfits.
Yeah.
That Crimson Ghost, how they got that face. But the sound of the ants too.
Oh gosh.
I guess that.
Fucking
I think they
irritating.
use like frogs and birds sounds like.
Change the pitch up and all that.
But I don't know if anyone. I always kind of thought of it the same as I don't know if phones nowadays could do it, but like the older Nokias and stuff. If you put two phones together, like on speaker, and you make a sound, they'll just reverb and they just make that weird echoing sound. And to me, that's what the ants sound like. But if you don't want to buy this movie, rent it. Like, it's definitely worth a rent. It's streaming on the Criterion channel app, whatever. I fully fledged recommend this movie so much.
Some of the oldies are just great, and it definitely left a huge influence to a point where we hear it in songs. We see it being replayed. Some of these snippets, it's almost like they took it right out of this movie and put it in another one just to make fun of it a little bit.
That's one thing I really fully enjoy about some of these older movies that are done in the 50s and 60s is, to me, they're more scary. Or like even older, 40s and 30s, like, because I was born in this day and age. We have tech, we have phones, we have, means of communication and technology.
Yeah.
And so it's like, oh yeah, if a blob attacks, we could just call someone.
Give a good phone.
Like,
Nope.
No, like the blob, like you're kind of.
You're waiting on a pager response or some
Having
shit
a pager.
Like back
It's
then,
like,
you
can't
apparently
call the
Morse
cops. You have
code.
to, all right, I have to go to a police station in order to
file a report.
Yeah, like, it's just
and have them laugh at you for big fucking
like
ant-shaped UFOs.
give this movie a watch. Like, give this movie a watch.
It's definitely worth a watch.
By direction of the President of the United States, stay in your homes. I repeat, stay in your homes. Your personal safety, the safety of the entire city, depends upon your full cooperation with the military authorities.
Yes, cities, nations, even civilization itself, threatened with annihilation. Because in one moment of history-making violence, nature, mad, rampant, wrought its most awesome creation. For born in that swirling inferno of radioactive dust were things so horrible, so terrifying, so hideous. There is no word to describe them.
All right, next movie we're going to be talking about is Tarantula, that came out in 1955. Just a year later, the second of the Big Bug movies.
I enjoyed this one because of its
directed by Jack Arnold too, by the way, real quick.
It had a lot of good back and forth between some of the characters, particularly between the protagonist and the sheriff of the town. This is one of those movies that made cops look fucking stupid. Never doing the police work or anything like, oh, I wouldn't go up there. The motherfucker's creepy. Why would I be out there?
I feel like this is speaks really true on how like some of the small town cops are, even nowadays, small town cops, but especially, I don't know, to me, I just feel like that's how cops really are.
So the whole
a vast majority of the cops, especially back then, or I think
this movie starts out with a scientific experiment. This man is doing a growth hormone and a strength serum in his laboratory, which seems
is
to
called
be a home.
a form of acromegalia.
Yeah,
That's a whole term of the
so
growth.
it makes this whatever you're putting it on or in age a little bit faster. Well, it makes it grow stronger and bigger. It looks might be 4 months in advance as far as growth, but it's actually only 6 days old, and it's huge. So during this experimentation, a man from the back room ends up fighting the scientist and knocks open one of the holding cells for a gigantic tarantula, and it makes the outbreak. And they have troubles identifying where this gigantic tarantula is, which is one of the comical things I remember seeing is them drive by, and then behind them is this big black tarantula. Like, oh, we didn't see that. It's the size of a fucking camel.
Well, like honestly, like the effects are actually
Oh, all right. So the effects are
the 50s.
it's like they zoomed in on it and made it look bigger. My favorite part of this is when they're showing all the different animals. They got like a gigantic rabbit in there and a gigantic guinea pig. The guinea pig's actually making pig noises. It's fucking hilarious.
That's what I thought was really funny is that the guinea pig was making like actual pig noises.
It sounded like a hog.
Which, if they are actually making their true noises, their whistles would blow out eardrums.
Oh yeah. It's just
yeah.
What the fuck?
But yeah, like I know that's one thing I do like about the effects in this movie, though. Like, yes, they are. I shouldn't say dated because they still use a lot of these techniques in film. Not in every actual film when they shoot in film, not in the digital format. Actually, no, I take that back because a lot of the actually editing in digital format is pretty much the same way how this is done in film.
Yeah.
Just in a digital compared to a
once again, this movie also reminded me of Beetlejuice because in the beginning they had the little building, the model of the small town, and you don't realize you're looking at a model until the tarantula is climbing on top of it.
That was the thing. They made like the room smaller so the tarantula looked bigger. So they actually used an actual tarantula, making it just a simple effect of miniatures.
Yeah,
making something look big. So it looks real because technically it is real. But they also did a form of editing called matting, which is just adding different layers. You have a background, you have the foreground and midground. And that's how they create a lot of those extremely blown out images of the tarantula.
Yeah, like you see parts of the tarantula's legs go see through for some of these scenes. It's I watch it because
pretty good though.
It felt like even though they try to make this movie seem serious, they didn't take themselves too seriously. The back and forth between the main guy and the cop, I thought it was hilarious the whole fucking time.
I think that's one of the things too, though, is if you've seen the giant, I think it's like called the Giant Mantis, like another giant bug movie that came out in this decade. This movie is dead ass serious compared to that movie. Like it, I still like Tarantula because like I said, the effects, the story is actually. It very basic, but it's enough. It's attention grabbing enough.
Yeah. Also, kind of remind me of that Willy Wonka scene where they're going through the tunnel, and you see the zoom in on all the like weird scenes and shit like that on the walls as they're having this psychedelic effect going down that hallway. And the part that sticks out to me the most in this movie was when the house is getting attacked and it just zooms in on the spider's eyes. You're like, that fucker would have busted through the wall by now, but all right.
They do that
still
so many
creepy.
times in movies in the like this time frame, like where it's like, oh, they're just giant, like they're right there in front of the window. And
yeah.
Like, how has no one seen that? Like, like the window's wide the hell open. And you have these giant fucking eyes or this giant face staring at you. It's the same thing with like King Kong with when he's climbing up the skyscraper and staring in the building. Like,
and that one, yeah, they had the little creepy. You could see the hand imprints on the doll as they were making it crawl up there. So the fur moved funny. It kind of reminded me of
that's another thing. Like
Rudolph
stop motion.
the Red-Nosed Reindeer with the abominable snowman.
I honestly like stop motion because of that stuff.
Yeah,
like the stop and clay motion, just because it creates more motion within it in a way. Yeah. It just which this is also, I shouldn't say one of his first movies, because this is another uncredited film for Clint Eastwood.
Yeah, very,
You know,
very.
love him or hate him, you know, I put his personal life separate from his acting because I love a lot of the movies that
He's a
acts
small blip up in this movie.
Yeah, like
super
he's
tiny.
very, very tiny in the end. But this is also the second movie he played in, acted in that Jack Arnold did. Which Jack Arnold also did the Creature of the Black Lagoon movies, at least the first two.
There you go.
He also did the Incredible Shrinking Man, which is another amazing special effects movie for that time frame. Like that's one I highly fucking recommend people watching, just because even by today's standards is really freaking amazing on how they did things, like they shaking the actual stage on like when a cat attacks, like in a dollhouse, and but in Creature from Black Lagoon, the second movie has Clint Eastwood in as well as a doctor. So it's just kind of it's kind of cool. Like Jack Arnold's almost kind of creating that tiny little Adam Sandler family.
Yeah, every director has their favorite go-tos. Quentin Tarantino reuses a lot of his friends, a lot of his actors, and they show some kind of allegiance to him by like, no matter how busy they are, like, no, let's do this shit.
Yeah, but that's the thing too. Like with that, it creates a quicker shooting too, because you got a lot of the better shorthand and stuff. You know, like,
yeah.
you just say, hey, do this, and like, oh, okay, I know what you mean. Instead of going up and trying to describe, I want you to do this and that with this kind of emotion, and what if you did this? Instead of, like, or you could just say, hey, Brad Pitt, that thing. Like, oh, okay, got it.
Right.
You know, or just like that. But yes. No, that's the thing. This is another movie I really do recommend, especially with an older movie.
Yeah, I thought it was way more fun than I thought it was going to be again, because like I knew the effects were going to be shit, but I actually enjoyed this one, but not as much. I really liked them because of how much more they actually put into the set.
Yeah.
This one had good acting in it, and that's pretty much what sucked you in on it.
That's a crazy thing too. Looking at these movies back to back, I want to say Them was made by WB, like Warner Brothers, and this one was Tarantula was a Universal movie, if I'm not mistaken. But Them really hit it out the park. It really did set a high bar on what a big bug movie should look like.
Yeah,
and so many of them,
it's different.
Try to replicate it, try to make it better, and they failed. Like, yeah, some of the monsters look better, but the acting was shit. The story was shit. Them just hit it on every fucking edge.
They took themselves too seriously in some of these films. But I feel like one of the other ones we're talking about nailed it just right. But
we're going to talk about a different movie before that movie.
All right, but I'm showing favoritism on some of these.
But what if circumstances were to magnify one of them in size and strength, took it out of its primitive world and turned it loose in ours?
Then expect something that's fiercer, more cruel and deadly than anything that ever walked the earth.
Even science was stunned. The new atomic miracle should have been mankind's greatest boon. Instead, when such power to cause phenomenal growth proved dangerously unstable, man was confronted with his most shocking blunder.
The isotope triggered our nutrient into a nightmare.
A blunder that transformed a tiny insect into the 100-foot spider that was now ravaging the panic-stricken countryside.
For sure.
But I guess supposedly, I didn't look up this fact because I came across it, and I don't know why I haven't looked into it more, but I guess we were going to stick with arachnids.
Well, I can't help it.
Ticks.
Oh, ticks.
And I didn't realize ticks were arachnids.
Yeah.
Fucking crazy.
Creepy crawlies.
But, Ticks, 1993, directed by Tony Randall. This movie is a forgotten gem. This movie, like, I don't know if you ended up having a chance to watching it, but this is one I highly recommend if it's ever streaming anywhere. If you're able to pick it up for cheap or what have you, this is a must-watch. Just a quick little synopsis of the movie is, granted, that amount of actors that That's one thing I kind of like about big bug movies is there is usually a solid actor in these movies.
Yeah.
I shouldn't say a solid actor, but a well-known actor. At least like nowadays. Synopsis is a giant and particularly aggressive ticks attack a group of young people who have gone for a simple and peaceful walk in the California wilderness. That does not describe the fucking movie at all. Yeah. So this is an anti-stoner flick to begin with, because you have the amazing Cliff Howard. Let me make sure I got
Cliff Howard. Holy shit.
Or Clint Howard. My bad. Like he's
creepy in everything. I feel
he's creepy in this movie too. Like, so you have him like in a shed out in the Big Bear Lake, which seems like a lot of big bug movies happen in fucking L.A. because I think Big Bear is L.A. County in the San Bernardino Mountains or forest. But he's out in a shed growing pot where everyone else grows pot out there, and there is a waste chemical that drops again onto, I guess, a sack of tick eggs or whatever, and the tick eggs, of course, become radioactive and grow into, I don't know, I guess the size of a fucking chihuahua.
Yeah.
Like, they don't get much bigger than that, but you have all these giant ticks running around, sucking the blood. There's a bunch of it's a gooey, sloppy movie.
Funny. The only way to get big buds is to use fucking radioactive waste, man.
That's pretty much it. Because, I mean, that's how it is, right? I mean, if you want bigger, more food
greener,
for everyone,
yep.
you have to make it bioengineered or you can some kind of weird chemicals into it. But yeah, there's so many, I love the effects in this movie. Like, yeah, the ticks are kind of okay, like the tick effects. Like, honestly, I would fucking love one of these props. But the amount of goo, like, they put so much whatever stuff, it's just seeping and all the blood pussing and stuff.
Yeah.
Like, unfortunately, a dog dies in this
like
movie
the
again.
Blob and shit like that.
Yes, like the 1980s Blob.
Yeah,
like that.
With Matt Dillon.
Is Matt Dillon in that movie?
I want to say, he was with his coiffy fucking curly mullet going on.
But yes, I don't know. It's so, I don't know, with this movie too, like, you have two really well-known actors. I think, in my opinion, two well-known actors. Seth Green is playing a small part into it, which I think he's only like 16 at the time of this movie, and he's already a phenomenal actor. And you also have Carlton himself from Fresh Prince of Bel-Air.
Oh, no shit.
Yes.
That's cool.
Alfonso Ribeiro.
Yeah. I didn't know he was in there. That's awesome.
That's the thing too. Like, he plays a badass thug.
Very un-Carlton like.
Yes, that's the thing too. Like, if you only know him from, I guess nowadays as America's Funniest Videos or Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, and you see him in this, like, it's hard to kind of distinguish him, like, separate those two.
Oh, Seth
parts.
Green was doing a lot of little shit, huh? Because I know he was in X-Files.
Seth Green was everywhere. He started acting when he was young.
Buffy and all that shit. Like,
I wish he played a bigger part in Buffy. But he also did the Cha-Ching commercial for, I think it was a credit card or a fast food thing.
Let me repeat your order here. That'll be 1 double cheeseburger, ching. Large fries and a large soda, ching. 2 kids meals and 2 medium sodas, ching. 1 chicken sandwich, large fries, and a vanilla milkshake. Bada bing.
Well, he's just doing Cha-Ching. It's stupid, but it's fun. No, this is pure 90s, like, outdoor horror. Like this, if you love the 90s aesthetic, this is that movie, because every decade has their own kind of aura behind it, how their own presence of just, like, if you want to date it on, like, special effects, like when CG started becoming big or what have you, like, or just the actors, like, this screams 90s, and I want to live in this. It makes me nostalgic for the 90s so freaking much. But yeah, there's really not much I could kind of say about this movie other than it is fucking fantastic. You have this group of, I don't want to say rebellious kids, because I think the only rebellious kids is, like, Seth Green and Alfonso's characters. but them and a group of, I guess, friends are going out with their dad and stepmom, I think it is now, out camping, out in a cabin and stuff, and shit goes awry. It's a very basic, generic storyline with some amazing effects.
I like it when a movie starts out like that and it just takes off from there.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you don't need too much to make a good story. It's like, all right, this happened and we're here now.
The slowest part of this movie is when Seth and Alfonso meet. That's the slowest part of the whole movie. Everything else is just it's a good even pace, and it just picks up.
3 movies in a row where it starts off strong and just carries you throughout the whole film.
Yeah,
But it looks worse than the projects.
It started out small.
It's got measles bumps. It's a tick. Vampires of the insect world.
A part of Mother Nature's wonder.
What is so inspiring about bugs and insects and snakes?
But then they grew
Don't move. There's something on your back.
Get off now!
and grew
Just don't touch it if you don't know what it is. Don't touch it. It attacked me.
unimaginable,
Ticks do not get this big.
unthinkable, unbelievable.
There was a huge fire and a whole bunch of those tick things headed this way.
Where civilization ends, the nightmare begins.
Everybody get upstairs!
Go! Go, go, go!
like them doesn't.
Them was high octane. Well, maybe not high octane in comparison to today. It's no Die Hard, but
Yeah.
I mean, it definitely kicks off strong and it catches your attention from the get go. And it's
Nonstop. Tarantula's the same way.
yeah, tarantulas. You at least see the monster at the beginning, and it continues to get larger and larger. Each shot, they make sure they make it bigger because that's what that serum's supposed to do. Is throughout time it gets bigger, even without injection. But with ants in them, it was just, I don't know. It was that girl kind of sold it for you from the get go.
Oh,
You're
the
like,
little
that,
one?
yeah, that girl is terrified every time she hears that noise. You're like, what the fuck is it?
And that's the thing too. Like, I guess we're going back on them real quick, because like the first time you actually notice that she's frightful of that ant sound was when they actually pick her up and put her in the ambulance
And she
stuff,
shoots out.
and everyone hears that sound. The adults look towards where that sound is coming, and then the girl, she's passed out, or she's in a catatonic state, and when that sound comes up, she gets up and just stares like
She's on high alert.
amazing freaking acting. And once when that sound dies down, she goes back down, lays down, and the adults look back at her, and they didn't realize that she was responsive to that sound. Like, it's just, honestly, them might be almost like one of the best movies on our list, like as a whole.
I
Like,
get, I know, I get what you're saying. I definitely understand that. I feel like it was very well put together.
like, as
It's
a
original too.
movie
Yeah.
aspect of it, like not as enjoyment. I enjoy all these movies.
I get it, yeah, because there's others I enjoy more, but that one was the most surprising out
Yes.
of all of it.
A hidden gem that shouldn't be a hidden gem by today's standards.
Yeah.
Definitely not by their standards.
A
back then.
lost gem.
There you go,
It was,
lost.
It was big at one point in time, but then it got lost.
And I think this might actually come back a little bit because whatever.
Mm-hmm.
We're gonna move on to another arachnid movie because you know what's better than.
Because I fucking like spiders. I love spiders, man.
It's not so much as spiders. It's just like when people do big bugs. What do they do?
It's the creepiest of the crawliest. Yeah,
You know, there's no other bugs other than spiders.
because there's
apparently.
nothing more terrifying than when they jump, man, and that's the leaping spiders.
Eight-legged freaks.
Eight-legged freaks. The residents of a rural mining town discover that the unfortunate chemical spill has caused hundreds of little spiders to mutate overnight to the size of SUVs. It's then up to the mining engineer, Chris McCormick, and Sheriff Sam Parker to mobilize an electric group of townspeople, including Sheriff's young son, Mike, her daughter, Ashley, and paranoid radio announcer, Harlan, and to battle against the bloodthirsty eight-legged beasts. That's somewhat good of a description here. Chris McCormick's character, his father owned the mines. So when he comes back to town after leaving at a teenage kind of age bracket, They are surprised to see him again and how much older he's gotten since then.
Played by David Arquette.
Played by David Arquette. Yeah, he's somewhat of the local legend. So
The town badass.
yeah, he is definitely the town badass. When he comes in and they're trying to sell his land, he pretty much tells them to fuck off and find your own place, because those mines have kept people employed for hundreds of years, or I don't know how fucking long, but they definitely made his stance in the movie as the head honcho of the town, even though he doesn't wear the title. He was the founder, almost a family of the founder. So with that character and David Arquette, and then the daughter of the sheriff, played by Scarlett Johansson.
One of her first. I think is her first movie or one of her first
super
movies.
young. I want to say like she's 14 or some shit like that.
No, I think she's just turning around 18.
Oh shit! All right.
So it's either she was 17.
Super young, but either way,
She still looks young nowadays.
They play her off as a punk ass kid with the punk ass boyfriend who's riding around on his dirt bike and causing trouble. So when they find these gigantic spiders, things are terrifying. Oh, the spiders are the reason why there are so many of these spiders is because this chemical spill happens in.
No, there's a radiation. There are radioactive canisters that are in the mines themselves.
Yeah, and they leak, and I want to say it's close. This old man that lives close to the mines is a very avid collector.
Like that's the thing. He's a collector, and he also sells spiders because of so you have the deputy that's played by Carrie
Sounds right.
Had a crush on her then. I still have a crush on her now, though. She could have my last name. But she has two kids: the daughter Scarlett Johansson and son Scott Terra. Like he's actually kind of helps carry this movie and actually keeps the storyline intact. In my opinion,
because he has the biggest interest in the problem.
But yeah, like he's the one that actually goes into the trailer where the collector has all the spiders and all these arachnids, and stuff, and like
he understands the spiders. He knows what they're supposed to do. He even understands the way the webs are made and how he can identify them by their webs and what they're supposed to be, how many more you can expect in the area and all this shit. The kid's almost the hero of the fucking movie.
He's a genius of it.
Yeah.
'Cause, like he could actually understand just
the
by
brains for sure.
Just a part of the leg, like put in his mathematical skills in his computer and creating like, oh, this is the size that it should be. But one of the times he sneaks out, he comes across a leg.
Huge leg.
And
I wouldn't want to find the spider that belonged to man.
This is why I say like the writing is actually pretty good for this movie, because it is a comedy. It's more comedy than horror, but that's kind of almost the thing when you get with Big Bugs. Big Bugs, it's hard to do scary. It's easier to make them more comical.
I feel like something that didn't help with this was the animation. Well, I wouldn't say the animation, but the CG that they used for it was laughable. But at the same time, I still found it enjoyable. It reminded me of Tremors, and that's kind of like what kicked it off for me, and that's what made me watch it the first time, because I was on a kick for that kind of shit.
I feel like they were both on HBO, and that's why I watched Eight-Legged Freaks as much as I did when I was a kid.
Fair enough.
But kind of going back on like the whole story, like so the kid ended up walking home and hitches a ride home after picking up that piece of the leg, and it's by David Arquette. Picks him up. And then later on in the movie, David Arquette is down in his basement of his aunt's house or whatever, and ends up finding a bigger leg. So it was just that connective tissue. Like you see him like, oh wait, he had the leg. He knows what he's talking about. He'll understand. Like there is no, oh yeah, the kid's crazy, whatever. Like it's just like well, I guess the kid, like, yeah, you are crazy, but later on it's like, I know who to go to for this.
Yeah.
And like to me, I just love that those kind of like, what you would almost assume would be like throwaway lines or throwaway, things to actually progress the story, and it's becoming such a big part of it. But yeah, another great thing about this movie too is I don't know if you remember, but the kid is watching or actually has it on the TV is playing them.
Yep, he's playing them on the TV. Yep.
This movie is so fucking enjoyable. So much comedy in this movie.
There's a lot of familiar faces in the film too. I mean, there's a whole bunch of names that if I spouted them off, you might not know. But when you watch the movie, you're like, I've seen this guy in every 90s film between here and the early 2000s. So, I mean, I felt like it was one of those comedy horrors that made me feel at home.
Yeah.
You know? Like American Werewolf in Paris.
No,
like that one, it's not the greatest horror film of all time, but it's still kind of,
you can't
throw
really
back to
control,
enjoy it.
like how you relate to them or something like that. Sometimes they just hit you at that right moment in your life, and it's just like, yeah, it's a shitty movie. I understand it, but it makes me feel good.
Yeah.
Like, at the end of the day, that's all that matters.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I think I also forgot to say, Eight-Legged Freaks came out in 2002, directed by Elroy Elkiman. But yeah, they actually got the name from this movie because of I think of an improv off of David Arquette when he's up in the tower and he's yelling out, "Get back, you eight-legged freaks!"
Yeah.
And that's what became the name of the movie, is because of him saying that. Supposedly, that's
Back
what
when
I've heard.
you had to, the name of the film's in the movie. Yep.
Because originally they had the name of the movie was a Rack Attack.
Oh, Rack Attack. Yeah.
Which he actually does say in this movie as well, but Eight-Legged Freaks is so much better than...
It nails the vibe of the movie much better.
That's pretty much it. It nails the vibe of this movie.
Yeah.
Because it is...
Not something to be taken serious. Yeah.
I think that one of the reasons that this movie scared me so much, or I shouldn't say, kind of scared me and got under my skin, is because they have jumping spiders.
Yeah, dude.
And these are like the same... I don't know if they're the same breed of spiders, because I don't know spider breeds at all. I just know that they're icky and slimy. No, I'm kidding. But I remember I was growing up the house I grew up in with all the bushes. There were spiders, and those fuckers would actually jump. Like, even in the grass, there were like these tiny little spiders that would just jump, and I hated them because they fucking jumped. And that's what this movie reminded me of. It's like it made me not want to go outside because I had to go down the sidewalk, which had bushes, and it had those spiders. I'm like, they're gonna jump out and attack me. I was like, they don't give a shit about us.
No, but they definitely with the whole. How high a motocross racer gets, and they get 100 feet of air, and then having this jumping spider like shortly behind it, you know what I mean? You're like, kick the son of a bitch.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like the kid's like on his dirt bike, and you have these jumping spiders jumping after him, and like there's no safe place.
It was a fun display of stuntman work going on in there and stuff like that. Trapdoor spiders freak me out, and that's what I
Which
feel
they
like
actually bring up in this movie too. Like,
yeah, trapdoor spiders are super fucking creepy.
That's the thing. It's not just like this simple. Like they have a tarantula in it, which the tarantula is like the big boy. Like he's a tank. He's the one that's doing all the damage, and it breaks into the mall. Like flips over the RV that the pirate radio
guys in. Yeah.
The of course the crazy black guy that's just talking about aliens and
conspiracy
theorists. So, but I mean, god damn, dude, I hate that this movie is almost so hard to find a physical copy of nowadays. Like, I mean, Blu-rays are like $30 nowadays.
The ending of this kind of remind me of Vampire in Brooklyn. You know how he wears the ring at the end, and then he smiles at the end. You see his fangs. At the end, you see the guy smiling. He's got the golden teeth. He's like, some of us made out fat from this, and you'll know who when you see him. And he smiles, and he's got all fucking teeth of gold. Yeah, like, it feels like with this movie they paid homage to a lot of the earlier stuff too. They just, I don't know, they had a lot of fun making this movie, and it's very clear, and I enjoyed watching every bit of it.
Yeah, it's, if you have not seen it, again, that all of these movies today are solid movies that I highly recommend watching. After a payday, if you have a weekend, you have $5, rent the shit.
Yeah,
like you could find it's. I want to say all of these movies you're able to rent, except for one of the movies I'm going to be bringing up. You can't rent it for like $5 yet, but all these, like, they're $5-6 to rent, like on YouTube or Google or Amazon.
Every now and then they make their appearance on Tubi, which worst case scenario you have to watch a commercial. Fuck it.
Yeah, which
go off and make more popcorn or something. I don't know.
That's it. Go to the bathroom.
It's a bathroom break.
That's how I look at them. But yeah, no, this is definitely one of those movies that if you don't want to watch a black and white movie, you're not ready for a 1990s campy, like actually campy kind of a horror film. Eight-Legged Freaks is that movie to watch. That's just
agreed.
Almost tune in, tune off, and just fucking enjoy.
Yeah, agreed.
You don't really get those that often.
It's a beautiful morning here in Prosperity, Arizona. Right here at KFRD. The only source for the inside dope on space aliens and when they plan to invade. It's time for America to wake up, people! Wake up before it's too late! People are saying, well, you know, it's coyotes and it's wolves, but we know the truth.
Exactly is it? Spider-Man.
Our town is being attacked by giant spiders. Get back, you eight-legged freaks!
Hey, Spidey!
Thank you.
But also, I want to say that Eight-Legged Freaks helped spawn off a lot of comical spider big bug movies.
Oh yeah,
like one of them is a Big Ass Spider that came out in
Big Ass
2013, directed by Mike Mendez. But like that, this is a sci-fi film. I'm not saying sci-fi as in science fiction, but the channel sci-fi. Like this also helps spawn off a bunch of other movies. This one is fun. Turn it off. It's kind of I want to say dumb, but it's shot incredibly well. The special effects
Sharknado?
are bad. Yes. So if you enjoy Sharknado, you'll love this movie. If you're okay with Sharknado, you'll love this movie. If you don't like bad effects or very basic lines, you're not going to care too much for this movie. You have Lynn Shay makes an appearance in this movie, so you have a very well-known actress playing a small part. You also have a very small cameo from Lloyd Kaufman as well. He's a jogger and he gets eaten by this fucking spider. But another LA movie.
It's always in LA.
Yeah, except for
if it's not in New York, it's in LA.
Eight-Legged Freaks was, I think, in Arizona. But you know, back in fucking LA.
Yep.
But I do highly recommend that one. Another Mike Mendez movie I really recommend, because since we're talking about him, or I brought this movie up so I could talk about this movie as well, as Satanic Hispanics, which is an anthology film, which I think he does wraparound. It's currently Satanic Hispanics is currently streaming on Shudder, that we are not sponsored by yet. But it is an anthology film by I want to say 5 Hispanic directors, of course, hailing from different parts of I think one 2 are from Mexico, one's from Cuba, one's from Spain and stuff. So it's that Hispanic heritage. I'm not gonna say it's one of the actual stories in the movie is the Hammer of Zanzibar.
That's my favorite one out of all of it. Yes,
watch the whole watch all the segments. All the segments are amazing, but that one is fucking amazing, and you'll thank me later.
This is one of those ones that's not getting enough credit. So it's one of I know that every one of you have one of those movies where you're like, there's no way this is getting 3 out of 5 stars. It's way better than that. Fuck everybody that's critical. This is one of those ones. It's going to have a shitty rating, but go ahead and watch it. There is...
Eight-Legged Freaks actually, I think, has a bad rating too. A lot of people hate that movie.
I can see why some of it's like that, but to be quite honest, it's still fucking great.
No,
I mean, it shouldn't get as much hate as it's getting. Satanic Hispanics, it has high funding. I mean... It's clear that
high funding. It's actually not high funding.
The guts and gore that are in it, thoroughly enjoyable.
They did so much of it on a budget.
Well, they did a great fucking job.
That's a lot of it was because directors and writers usually get paid a certain amount of money, and then the other amount of money goes into the story. A lot of them actually end up putting the money that they were making off of it into the movie and stuff. So it's like, you guys could take this money, you do whatever. You could make a shitty $100 film, or you could do whatever money I give you for this movie. And apparently all of them put money into it, and it shows. Like, there is a lot of love in the segments.
Yeah.
Like, each one of the segments, there is a lot of love into them. But
it reminded me of Onyx.
I could
Onyx
see
the Fortuitous a little bit with the way it was shot.
That movie is currently streaming on Tubi as well. Onyx the Fortuitous.
It's comical. It's comical, not anything to be taken too seriously, but they clearly put enough love into it to make you want to enjoy it as much as they did.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, check out Satanic Hispanics on Shudder. But Big Ass Spider is streaming fucking everywhere. It's on Tubi. I do actually recommend that movie if you want a movie just to kind of laugh and just... enjoy, because it is, that movie is incredibly racist.
Yeah,
in the good way. I'm gonna let that pause float in the air a little bit. It's stereotypical for Mexicans and stuff, especially in LA.
Okay.
Which makes it freaking hilarious. Like you think of like Cheech and Chong type of, not like the stoner humor, but that just like that. Like, oh yeah, all Mexicans are this way and stuff. Like that's what this movie kind of does. It's freaking amazing and such a great comical and loving way. Like you could tell Mike Mendez has a love for this stuff.
Yeah,
really gives an appreciation to the Hispanic culture.
That's cool.
But the actual movie that I really kind of want to talk about that needs to get brought up, and you can see a lot of the elements is Sting.
Sting.
This is one that just came out in 2024, this current year. Directed and written by Kia Roche Turner. So I like this movie, but at the same time though, it is borderline generic, and I wish it had more.
Generic in what way? Like, is it in any way relatable to arachnophobia? Because
that's the thing. Like, this movie got a lot of talk and a lot of hype, saying, "Oh, it's a new arachnophobia movie," and it's like, no, it is definitely not the new arachnophobia movie by any means. Infested is a new arachnophobia movie.
Dude, I felt like Infested was perfect. I really enjoyed it.
But all right, here's another mouthful for the synopsis of Sting, which honestly, like if you're into, I shouldn't say kid movies, but if you're into kids playing the main character or the main acting part, this movie's great for you, because I know certain people do not like those movies. Whatever, to each their own. But Charlotte is a rebellious 12-year-old girl who finds a tiny spider in her run-down apartment building. She keeps it in a jar, but it soon starts to grow at a monstrous rate and develop an insatiable appetite for blood. As her neighbors begin to disappear, Charlotte and her family find themselves in a desperate fight for their lives against a ravenous arachnid with a taste for human flesh.
For once, the spider's not named Charlotte. Right on.
That's
close, but
honestly, that's probably why they named her Charlotte. Charlotte's Web.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really don't want to ruin this movie because it is still really new. I think it's not even has a physical copy yet. I think it is currently available to not so much stream, but you can rent it.
Prime Video.
Which all right, we all have those movies where we say, "Oh, it's a $5 movie or whatever." Like this is a $15 movie. You know, at least for me to own, I would spend $15 to own it on a physical copy. But this is a pretty good movie. It is. It has its peaks and lows, of course, like a lot of movies do. It does keep you entertained. A lot of good creepy moments. A lot of moments that are just kind of meh. That's why I said it's $15. It's worth a watch. Like it's worth a watch.
I'm a spider guy, so I'm gonna have to watch it.
Mm-hmm.
I have to watch it.
But it says in the synopsis, and like it is a big bug movie. Like, so I mean, we should almost instead of big bug movies, big fucking arachnid movies.
Yeah, that's definitely how we
the only one that wasn't an arachnid was freaking them.
Yep.
Which ants are now arachnids. You heard it here now. Yeah, I wish I could sell the movie more. All I can say is I really do highly recommend it. Unfortunately, that's all I could really kind of say about that movie. But yeah, that's the thing. This whole genre has helped spawn a lot more of the sci-fi films, like even more in depth. You know, like not whether it's so much on that comedy or the horror aspect of it. You have like Tremors, which kind of started becoming a big warm, like meal worm kind of thing. Even like kids movies like A Bug's Life and Ants and the B movie or The Bee Movie.
Yeah.
And stuff. Like, so big bugs are everywhere, even Starship Troopers.
God, I love that one.
Like that's another bug movie that's not like it's a outer space, like Vietnam movie.
I mean, it's technically a like you said, it's more of an action than a horror, but it definitely has its moments of horror. And if you enjoy that shit, check out Helldivers too, because it's pretty much you fighting big bugs on another planet. So it definitely has the terror feeling. Yeah, it's megalophobia meets like creepy crawlers.
Yeah, so I mean, it's Big Bug movie started a lot of stuff. Like it really did. Like there are a lot of great movies that came out after it. Yeah, very anticlimactic ending to this episode.
Yep. Sorry.
Fucking Bridget.